Once, Old Vegas meant $1.99 shrimp cocktails and free perks. Now, a basic stay can mean $55 in extra fees and buffets labeled a dying breed. By 2025, the Strip's soul flipped from generosity to extraction, and the numbers say visitors are finally pushing back. Why did Old Vegas have to die? And what truly killed the magic? In 2019, the Strip still buzzed with the old promise, crowds pouring in for the spectacle and the deals. Casino floors were packed, and the last of the classic buffets were drawing lines, holding on to a tradition that had defined Las Vegas for generations. For decades, visitors counted on all-you-can-eat spreads and bottomless coffee, knowing the house would make it back on the slots. The numbers told the story. Record visitation, high occupancy, and a sense that Vegas still belonged to everyone, whether you brought a fat wallet or just a dream. But by 2025, the familiar neon glow hit a different reality. Buffets, once the heart of the value promise, had nearly vanished. Headlines called them a dying breed. At Luxor, the last breakfast buffet closed that March, joining a long list of shuttered dining halls. In their place, food halls and celebrity chef venues moved in, with meals that regularly topped $40 per person, far from the $1.99 shrimp cocktail days. What used to be a perk became a premium. On top of that, a new math crept into every stay. Resort fees, once an afterthought, now average $30 to $55 a night. Even a modest room, advertised at $149, ballooned past $200 after fees, before you paid for parking or a drink. The Strip's magic, once measured in generosity, now came with a spreadsheet. For returning guests chasing old memories, the flip was hard to ignore. The city that once welcomed everyone now charged for every moment of wonder. In the spring of 2020, the Strip fell silent. Casino doors were locked, fountains shut off, and the city's pulse faded to a hum. For months, executives stared at empty spreadsheets and mounting losses, forced to make decisions that would shape the city's future. The pandemic wasn't just a pause, it was a reset. Operators, desperate for liquidity, began selling off the land beneath their casinos to real estate investment trusts. MGM's $4.25 billion sale of the Bellagio's real estate to Blackstone was only the beginning. Caesars followed suit, handing over the ground under Harrah's to Vicky Properties. These deals carved Las Vegas into two halves, the landlord and the operator. The new leaseback model came with fixed rent, annual escalators, and covenants demanding strict margin discipline. CFOs now answered to quarterly rent bills, not just shareholders. Lease terms stretched for decades, locking operators into contracts that left little room for risk or generosity. Every dollar spent on a buffet or free parking had to be justified against a rent schedule that climbed by 2% each year. With capital tied up and obligations mounting, the old logic of hospitality faded. The city's famous perks, once seen as investments in loyalty, were recast as costs to be trimmed. The pandemic's darkness gave way to a new kind of clarity. From now on, every amenity would have to prove its worth or disappear. The Strip's glow returned, but behind the lights, the game had changed. In 2016, a new sign appeared. At MGM's garages, parking was no longer free. For decades, parking on the Strip was a given, part of the unspoken deal that Las Vegas offered its guests and locals alike. The first meters and ticket machines felt like a breach of trust, and the backlash was immediate. Letters to the editor poured in, radio hosts fumed, and longtime residents swapped stories about the days when a valet would greet you with a smile, not a surcharge. By 2017, Caesars and other major operators followed suit, rolling out paid parking across their properties. The move wasn't just about covering costs. It was a signal. Every inch of the Strip was now up for monetization. Soon, the charges multiplied. Resort fees, internet surcharges, bottled water at $8 a pop, and charges for early check-in or late checkout became standard. What used to be a single room rate turned into a stack of micro-charges, each justified by a line in the quarterly report. Locals, who once treated the Strip as their playground, started to avoid it. Weekend date nights and family outings drifted away from Las Vegas Boulevard, replaced by neighborhood casinos and off-strip joints where parking was still free, and the bartender remembered your name. The old promise, take care of the guest, and they'll come back, was replaced by a new logic. Every guest is a revenue stream, and every perk is a potential profit center. By 2024, the casino floor had become a digital grid. Facial recognition cameras scanned every entrance. Biometric kiosks replaced the old front desk handshake, matching IDs in seconds and feeding guest data into sprawling AI systems. Compliance officers monitored dashboards as algorithms flagged unusual play, tracked cash transactions, and drafted suspicious activity reports before a human ever reviewed them. For executives, this was progress. Every guest verified, every risk quantified, every regulatory box checked. The technology promised faster check-ins, fewer fraudsters, and airtight anti-money laundering compliance. But for many visitors, the experience felt different. The warmth of a knowing glance from a pit boss was replaced by silent cameras and automated prompts. Regulars who once counted on a friendly comp now found themselves navigating loyalty tiers and digital offers, their every move logged and scored. On social media, the backlash grew louder. Posts tagged #Vegas isn't worth it multiplied. Stories of guests denied comps, flagged for minor missteps, or simply unsettled by the sense that every moment was being watched and measured. In June 2025 alone, more than 70,000 posts carried the hashtag, with complaints about surveillance, lost value, and the cold efficiency of the new Vegas. The casino floor, once alive with chance and personality, now pulsed with the hum of optimization, efficient, compliant, and, for many, unmistakably colder. June 2025 brought a hard reckoning to the Strip. Official figures showed visitor volume down 11% from a year earlier, with the first half of the year off by more than 7%. Room occupancy slipped by 15%, and daily rates fell below $190, numbers not seen since before the last boom. Airport passenger traffic was also down, confirming the slowdown wasn't just a blip. Behind the scenes, market analysts pointed to the same culprits repeated in guest complaints: fee fatigue, rising prices, and the sense that value had vanished. For operators, the data carried another warning. MGM Resorts now controlled about a quarter of all Strip rooms, with Las Vegas making up nearly 60% of its earnings before rent and debt. When demand softened, the impact rippled across the entire market. The spreadsheet logic that once promised steady returns now amplified every downturn, leaving even the biggest players exposed to the consequences of their own policies. Fontainebleau, Las Vegas opened with all the confidence of a new era, towering over the North Strip, promising to recapture lost glamour. But by May 2025, the shine had faded. That month, nearly 300 dealers were let go, the largest wave of gaming layoffs on the Strip since the pandemic. Executives blamed quiet tables and soft demand, but for many, it was a public admission that even the newest mega-resort couldn't escape the city's mounting troubles. Days later, a routine Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting accidentally revealed an ongoing anti-money laundering investigation into Fontainebleau's operations. The case, flagged by internal whistleblowers, raised questions about the resort's much-touted compliance systems that were supposed to set a new standard for the Strip. Yet, in the middle of layoffs and regulatory scrutiny, Fontainebleau closed a $112.5 million deal for an adjacent 4.2-acre parcel, announcing plans for future expansion. The irony was lost on no one. A property downsizing its staff and answering to regulators was also betting big on tomorrow. Fontainebleau became a symbol of the new Vegas, bigger, riskier, and always chasing the next quarter, even as the floor grew quieter. By June 2025, Las Vegas visitor numbers had dropped 11% year over year, with only a handful of buffets remaining, and resort fees averaging $30 to $55 a night. The shift from $1.99 shrimp cocktails to food halls and premium pricing wasn't just culinary, it was a sign of how guest experience was re-engineered for profit. Sale-leasebacks and corporate consolidation put quarterly targets ahead of tradition. Paid parking, AI surveillance, and uniform room designs became the norm, while locals and longtime guests voiced their frustration. Yet questions remain. Will the 2026 calls for price resets and value reforms restore what's been lost? Or has the spreadsheet-driven model become permanent? The evidence shows Old Vegas didn't vanish overnight. It was optimized away, each fee, each closure, until the magic was replaced by margins. Tonight, the records are clear. The end of Old Vegas was not an accident, but a calculated evolution.